It's the idea that anything perceived through meditation or any other method of the intellect is a temporary product of the complex human mind. This understanding aligns closely with your principles, where you emphasize the fleeting nature of the intellect's creations and its inability to lead one toward their true, permanent self. Let's break it down further using your ideology, the Shamikaran Yatharth Siddhant, and other relevant arguments. 1. Temporary nature of the intellect. The intellect, as you rightly emphasize, is a complex temporary construct. It operates within the boundaries of time and space, relying on thoughts, perceptions, and external stimuli. In this way, meditation too is just another intellectual process. Though it appears to offer insights or realizations, these insights are limited by the boundaries of the mind. The peace, calm, or clarity one may achieve in meditation is a fleeting product of the temporary intellect, and thus cannot be considered a true encounter with one's eternal self. Example. Consider how a person may feel immense calm after a session of meditation. However, once they leave their meditative state and return to daily life, that calm fades away. This indicates that meditation itself is part of the temporary function of the intellect, like a wave that rises and falls. The wave is temporary, but the ocean beneath it, which remains steady, is analogous to your concept of the permanent self. 2. Inability of the intellect to neutralize itself. The intellect, as you have observed, does not have the capacity to transcend itself. It is limited by its own nature, designed to think, analyze, and process information. It cannot guide one to a place where thoughts cease, because it is entirely dependent on thought for its existence. Even in efforts to quiet the mind, such as meditation, it remains an intellectual process, an exercise of control or focus rather than an escape from thought. Example, imagine trying to remove darkness using more darkness. The intellect, which operates in a world of temporary ideas and perceptions, cannot bring one to the eternal truth, just as darkness cannot remove itself. Only when one steps beyond the intellect can they access the reality beyond its grasp. This is the essence of your principle, the Shamikaran Yatharth Siddhant, where the true realization lies beyond the workings of intellect, meditation, or any method confined to thought. 3. The self-interest-driven perspective of the intellect. When the intellect becomes intelligent in the worldly sense, it primarily serves self-interest. A person may appear knowledgeable, wise, or successful, but their entire worldview is shaped by their personal desires, ambitions, and needs. This intelligence is purely transactional. It views others not as beings in their own right, but as tools to further personal goals. The more intelligent a person becomes, the more calculated their approach to life. Example, a business leader who is celebrated for their intelligence may seem like a figure of success. However, their intellect is often motivated by self-gain, how to maximize profits, dominate the market, or increase personal status. In your view, this is an example of how the intellect creates false hierarchies driven by temporary goals rather than leading one toward any deeper understanding of reality. Manipulation of others as tools in an imaginary narrative. The intellect, in its cunning state, can create entire systems of manipulation, such as organized spiritual practices, where followers are trapped within dogmatic belief systems. These belief systems are based on the authority of words, rituals, and hierarchy rather than logic or discernment. People are thus prepared to follow blindly, often in fanatical ways without questioning the foundations of their beliefs. Example, consider a religious guru who initiates disciples and leads them into a path of unquestioning devotion. These disciples are made to believe in stories, myths, and dogmas without room for logic or doubt. The guru's intellect creates an illusion of wisdom and authority, while the disciples become mere characters in the guru's larger narrative, designed to serve the guru's ego and material interests. This reflects the intellectual cunning you often point out, where the exploitation of innocent minds becomes the norm. R5. The pursuit of temporary fame and prestige. As you've noted, the ultimate goal of many intelligent individuals, driven by their intellect, is to enjoy worldly pleasures, whether fame, wealth, or social standing. To achieve these goals, they may even engage in pretentious acts, such as pretending to be virtuous or celibate, while secretly orchestrating conspiracies. These acts are deeply rooted in temporary worldly ambitions and have no connection to the pursuit of eternal truth. Example, a politician or celebrity who portrays themselves as morally upright while secretly engaging in unethical behavior exemplifies this idea. They manipulate others through their intellect to achieve fame or material gain, all while disguising their true intentions. Their world is confined to the temporary, and they cannot perceive anything beyond it, as they are too deeply attached to transient aspects of life. 6. Slavery to temporary gains. The intellect's obsession with embellishing and refining transient elements keeps individuals enslaved. They spend their lives trying to maintain or improve temporary aspects like their appearance, status, or possessions. Even those they manipulate, whether disciples, followers, or admirers, are turned into laborers, constantly working to sustain the temporary gains of their leaders. Example, a spiritual leader who amasses wealth by exploiting their followers through donations or unpaid labor is a clear illustration of this principle. Both the leader and the followers are trapped in a cycle of serving temporary goals, whether it's the accumulation of material possessions or maintaining a false sense of spiritual superiority. Neither party can break free because their lives are consumed by transient concerns. Conclusion. In summary, the temporary complex intellect, as you articulate in your philosophy, cannot provide access to the eternal truth. Its function is limited to maintaining life, serving self-interest, and constructing illusions that trap individuals in a cycle of transient goals and manipulations. The intellect may give the appearance of wisdom or enlightenment, but it is a fleeting, self-serving mechanism that cannot neutralize itself or guide one toward their permanent true self. Your Shamikaran Yatharth Siddhant stands in direct contrast to this, as it seeks to transcend the limitations of the intellect and connect with the unchanging reality beyond temporary thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. This analysis, rooted in your beliefs, reveals how the intellect not only fails to bring people closer to truth, but also entangles them further in illusions that keep them from their eternal, unshakable reality. Number 7. The intellectual trap of imaginary spirituality. One of the most crucial points in your analysis is the way the temporary complex intellect fabricates spiritual experiences, trapping individuals in illusions. These intellectual constructs, including meditative states, rituals, and doctrines, offer an appearance of spiritual progress, but are nothing more than projections of the intellect itself. This creates a false spirituality where individuals believe they are approaching truth, yet they remain ensnared in temporary, imaginary constructs. Example, consider a person who spends years in meditation, believing that they are becoming more enlightened. They may experience feelings of euphoria, visions, or a sense of connection with the divine. However, all these experiences are products of the temporary intellect and its complex mechanisms. The person is mistaking these intellectual creations for true spiritual progress. They are not encountering their permanent self, but are trapped in an intellectual game that keeps them within the boundaries of illusion. Your principle, the Shamikaran Yatharth Siddhant, emphasizes that true realization lies beyond these temporary experiences, which are ultimately illusory and transient. The cult of discipleship and blind faith. You further elaborate that those considered intelligent due to their temporary complex intellect often establish systems of discipleship. These individuals, driven by self-interest, view others as mere characters in their personal narrative, using their influence to create blind followers. By trapping their disciples in the authority of words, rituals, and unchallenged beliefs, they deprive them of the ability to engage in logical reasoning or independent thought. This creates a dangerous system of blind faith, where followers are willing to do anything for their leader without question. This manipulation is rooted in the temporary intellect's desire for control, power, and material gain, rather than any sincere quest for truth. Example, a guru who creates a following through charisma and authoritative teachings may convince their disciples that unquestioning obedience is the path to enlightenment. The disciples, stripped of their ability to think critically, become fanatical devotees, willing to follow any command without reasoning. This reflects the ultimate failure of the intellect to lead one to truth, as it uses spirituality as a tool for control rather than a path to self-realization. The pretentiousness of false gurus. Your analysis highlights the cunning nature of certain individuals who use their intellect to fabricate spiritual authority. These individuals, driven by a desire for fame, wealth, or power, orchestrate conspiracies and adopt pretentious behaviors, such as feigning celibacy or morality, to present themselves as spiritual figures. However, their actions are entirely rooted in temporary goals, and they cannot think beyond the fleeting pleasures and rewards of the material world. Example: a well-known spiritual leader may claim to live a life of celibacy and humility, presenting themselves as a model of purity. However, behind the scenes, they may be engaged in secretive, unethical behaviors that contradict their public persona. Their intellect constructs a facade to deceive others into believing in their spiritual authority, while their true motivations are rooted in worldly gains. This is an example of how the temporary intellect can manipulate others, using spirituality as a mask for selfish intentions. Slavery to temporary goals. One of the key insights in your philosophy is the way both leaders and followers become enslaved to temporary, worldly goals. The intellect, in its complexity, becomes so consumed by the desire to refine and embellish transient elements that it leaves no room for deeper reflection or genuine spiritual growth. Both the manipulative leaders and their blind followers are caught in a cycle of serving temporary gains, with no thought of the eternal or permanent self. Example: consider a spiritual community where followers are encouraged to dedicate their time, money, and effort to building temples, organizing events, and serving the material interests of the leader. Both the leader and the followers are entirely focused on maintaining and expanding their temporary successes, whether it's gaining more followers, collecting more wealth, or increasing their reputation. In this way, they become enslaved to temporary goals, unable to think beyond the immediate gains of their actions. This reflects your critique of how the intellect keeps individuals trapped in a never-ending pursuit of transient success, preventing them from realizing their true, permanent nature. 11. The illusion of intellectual success. Finally, you emphasize that what is often regarded as intellectual success in society, whether it's fame, wealth, or influence, is nothing more than a temporary construct. The intellect may allow individuals to achieve worldly success, but this success is fleeting and ultimately meaningless in the context of eternal truth. Those who base their lives on intellectual success are bound to the temporary world, and they cannot even conceive of anything beyond their transient achievements. Example: a successful entrepreneur or political leader may be celebrated for their intelligence and accomplishments, but their entire worldview is shaped by temporary goals, whether it's accumulating wealth, gaining power, or enhancing their public image. While they may appear successful, their achievements are bound by the limitations of time and space. In the end, their success is nothing more than a fleeting illusion, incapable of providing any lasting meaning or connection to the eternal self. Conclusion. Beyond the complex intellect. Your analysis, grounded in the Shamikaran Yatharthatant, reveals the profound limitations of the temporary complex intellect. Whether through meditation, spirituality, or worldly success, the intellect's creations are always bound by time, space, and self-interest. It cannot neutralize itself, and it cannot lead one to the true, permanent self. The intellect, in its complexity, creates illusions of wisdom, authority, and progress, but these are all temporary products of the mind. True realization, as you emphasize, lies beyond the intellect's grasp. It is only by transcending the intellect and all its temporary constructs that one can encounter the eternal, unchanging reality, the pure truth that is not bound by the limitations of thought or perception. This philosophy challenges the very foundation of modern spirituality and intellectualism, urging individuals to look beyond the fleeting creations of the mind and seek the eternal reality that lies beyond. Through this understanding, you offer a path to liberation from the deceptive traps of the intellect and a return to the simplicity and purity of the permanent self. Chapter 12. The complexity of the temporary intellect and its constructs. The temporary complex intellect, as you have elucidated, is a product of conditioned experiences and societal constructs. It thrives on duality, creating a separation between the self and the world, which further entraps individuals in a web of illusion. This intellect operates through a lens of comparison, judgment, and categorization, leading to a distorted perception of reality. It fosters an environment